Hey Justin, how you doing, brother? Come on in, ladies and gentlemen. Let everybody filter in. Timmy, how you doing, bud? So what's up, Scott? Ice off. It's getting close. Cole, flying into fly tying. Hello to everybody. We're getting close and starting to get the shakes, I think. We're due. So I figured I would cover just a couple. We'll do 3 for sure, and they're pretty quick ties. These are not rocket science flies, but they're damn effective, and they're some of my favorites right at ice off. So this is all of these are shallow water, up to a foot, 2 feet, 3 feet. That's where water is going to be warmest, and that's where you'll often find the fish. So the first one is, ready for this? A blob. Yep, I fish them. You've seen me post, and it took me a year or two of fishing them before I could get Rob on the wagon, but although I don't know if he'll admit it, he fishes them from time to time too. So there's a bunch of different colors. We've been using this slush jelly Fritz Mambo Jumbo for quite a while. Kent brought this in 2 years ago maybe, at Canadian Llama, and we've been fishing it ever since. The original stuff that I used, I've been using this for 4 or 5 years probably, is the Daphnia Fritz, and this is, I believe, prawn. Apricot is another good color. You can go right back to like kind of some of the OG stuff. This is the fluorescent 15 millimeter Fritz from Flybox. So, I mean, you can tie these with all kinds of different colors and variations and combos, but some of my favorites are just take some of it, wrap it around a hook with a big old bead, and fish it. I don't know what it is about this stuff, but it works, and it works well. So one thing I started doing last year was tying, especially these early season blobs. There's plenty of times when you're going to fish these things mid-column or in deeper water. But this is on a jig hook. So I've got an oversized bead and probably at least one size big for this hook, and then a jig hook. The reason I do that is oftentimes in the spring there's not a ton of vegetation, but when you get right up shallow there can be. And you're kind of skimming this into the shallows, so because it's going to hit the bottom from time to time, the jig hook just keeps you hook point up and saves you some mucking about. And obviously this being tungsten, it helps get it down. That's kind of one of the knocks of this type of material, is that you got to weight them down to get them down. I mean, it doesn't take long for anything to happen in a couple feet of water, but anyhow, so I'll come in just a little closer here so you can see that bead is oversized. Color thread, I use typically whatever material I'm using. So if I'm using this here, oh, there's a moose, folks. Hi, buddy. Yeah, hi. This is fluorescent green. So if I've got this lime color, we call this Mountain Dew. And so if I'm using the Mountain Dew, I'll use fluorescent green. If I'm using something like the Sunburst here, I'll use fluorescent orange. So always a bit of a hot spot setup with these things. I mean, the bead is bright, the material's bright, the thread is bright. That's the whole point of it. So anyhow, just super easy. You can add lead if you want, but when you oversize this bead, it's pretty damn heavy already. And these are an aquatalon hook. They're from Chinook Wind. Susan sent me these in my last order to try out, and they're pretty good. They get a nice curl on the hook point, and seem to do all right. I haven't fished them yet, but we'll see kind of what happens in a few weeks from now. So this stuff is a little bit unruly to tie with. Like it's really all over the place. So there's no right or wrong way to tie with it. Just get it on the hook and giddy up. This Mountain Dew, I'm tying this because it is one of my favorite colors to fish. We just call them by like slushy colors just because of the name of the material. So Mountain Dew, Orange Crush, and so if you've seen, I just stripped a bunch of the material, like any chenille, off of the material, and that allows for a super secure tie-in. And if you tie these things well, they will last you a long time. I had one that I think I got all the way through the season last year, but they just don't really fall apart. So not really. I mean, boobies have been smashing Penasks for many years around here. So yeah, I don't know if it makes a huge difference. Sometimes when you're hanging these things, rather than stripping them, the more aggressive strains, the Blackwaters and the Frasers, will be a little more willing, but all the fish seem to have their time. So when I wrap this, I just kind of sweep it back, almost like you're, wrapping a hackle, and you can really get it to kind of lay back on itself. You'll notice if you can get the wrap going the right way, so you can see this thing is, as I wrap it, it's kind of laying backwards, not all over the place. But if you tie it in and get it going the right direction, it'll wrap nice and easy for you. And then one key is to every wrap, let it go, so you're not twisting it as you wrap. And that makes it super, super easy. So jam it right up behind that bead there, and then with a bunch of wraps over top and in behind, just secure it, and then trim out your excess, and hopefully don't cut your thread in the process. As far as how quick I'm stripping it, it kind of depends on what the fish are after. There's days where you can rip these things and they'll chase them down. There's other days where just a little twitch will work. One thing I don't recommend is a lot of pausing. If you're moving this thing and then you're pausing, if you do that, a lot of times you'll find that the fish can take it deep, the fly, but just don't pause too much, or you'll save that. These shorter shanked hooks help too. And then I just build up that little green collar. The slush, I don't believe, comes in different sizes. It's pretty straightforward. Any tips for tying with shorter hackle? Use hackle pliers. So I throw a couple whip finishes in and trim that off. You can throw your glue on your thread and just wrap it if you want. But if you just pull this, and I just kind of throw a dab right on top there, that'll sink into that hole in the slotted bead and then get right down all over that thread. And that thing is not coming apart. But bing. I know, goofy. My light's a little bit bright tonight there. Let's just move that over. Sorry to be boring, but it crushes. I'm telling you, like, the picture I posted to announce this live stream was that exact fly in a fish's mouth going into the net. So no BS, they get her done. Try them in different colors. I mean, different days have different tendencies. So some days the green outfishes the orange, sometimes the pink outfishes the orange. You know, it just really depends. So I'm trying to keep up with the questions here. Use this on a slow day, or is it a go-to starter? There's certain places I fish this where it definitely gets put on first. You'll probably find your specific lakes that it works better than others. So, you know, I mean, like anything, I have a few go-to flies, and depending on where I'm heading and the time of year it is, that's kind of what depicts what comes out. But this is one of those flies that you can certainly use all year round, like summertime, mid-column, or down deeper when they're on Daphnia. Like there's, yeah, it's if you haven't fished these things or you don't have confidence in them, give them a little bit more of a shot, especially really early season and late season. I don't do multicolors too often, just because I don't really feel the need to. On boobies I will, but on blobs I just do solid colors. And like I say, I've never had an orange and green one outperform just a green one or just an orange one. So until that happens, I'll just rock the one color. And there's another thing. So you can do, you know, if you want to change up the colors, you can rock, like somebody just said, rock, you know, a certain color material with an opposite colored bead for a little contrast. But blob does the job. Kyle knows. Kyle is a blob addict. There's times when I am too, so don't worry, you're not alone, buddy. So just going to tie a couple of each here. Bear with me. I do not fish steelhead on a regular basis. Mostly a stillwater guy. Do you always? When I first started fishing these things with the old Daphnia Fritz, I never used a bead. I just used hot orange thread. But now I typically fish it with a bead. Hey, Christine, welcome. And that's mostly because, so when I didn't weight them with bead, I would use lead wraps along the shank. And because this stuff doesn't sink the quickest, so weighting it certainly helps. No tail, no nothing. I have a bunch of these things tied for the season, and I swear to God, this is it. It is material wrapped around a hook. That's it. Moose, can you leave that, please? Excuse the moose, ladies and gentlemen. No tail, no nothing. Let's be honest, if you need to put anything other than this bright-ass bead and this bright-ass material on a hook for it to be seen, then you're casting to blind fish. Because, I mean, like, you don't, no tail, no extra flash, no nothing. I mean, to each their own. Everybody has confidence. But my confidence lies with this and only this. So that's it. I do like building up this thread band here. Like I say, orange, green, pink. Red is a good color to use for this one. You control a blue blob all you want. You control blobs, you control boobies. I mean, I'm stripping these a lot of the time. So when you're stripping, that is kind of the same action that you'll get with trolling, right? So make sure you're hanging onto your rod, though, if you're trolling something like this. When you get hit, it will be kapow. So just keep that in mind. Stands out like a dog's balls. You're not wrong, fella. I have fished blobs on every line you can think of. All depends on the scenario. Early season, it's either going to be like a clear intermediate or a floater. Just because, again, you know, I'm fishing these super, super shallow. This is a 45-degree jig, slotted bead, oversized bead for this for these patterns. But I'm telling you, no flashaboo, no nothing. That's it. I don't know if Kyle's still in here. Kyle can vouch for just the material on a hook. I don't think he uses any of the extras either. So how far away do you try to keep the weight? I don't use weight only because, again, like these things are heavy with that tungsten bead. That's a 7/64 bead, that one, I think. It's on a size, I believe it's a 10 or no, it's a 14 jig hook, sorry. So bead's way oversized, but it gets it down so I don't have to use weight. All my lines are Scientific Anglers for that question. Okay, so next one up, and this one is one that has been requested a ton, and I just never do it because I never really have the dubbing brushes ready. There it is, no flash, bead, Fritz, bobber down. I get excited just talking about that. You guys have no idea. Okay, so what we're going to tie up now is, Christine, I have no idea. I will not even pretend to think that I know. There are people out there that will tell you certain blobs get taken for Daphnia clusters. I think that's a little bit debatable. Daphnia doesn't rip around in the water. So maybe there's times when that's the case, but I don't always have to know why a fish does something. Obviously I like to, but when I know that it catches them up, that's as good as I need it to be. So it's, yeah. Okay, so anyhow, this is a WMD Scud. I get asked about this thing all the time, and again, it's just material on a hook. I'm sorry that anybody that's new here, if you're being bored stiff by the simplicity of these fly patterns, but this is just a pre-made wire dubbing brush. So I just make these with a little dubbing block and and spin them up. So this one uses Arizona Semi-Seal in dark olive, and then you can probably see the little flash. I've added in about 20% of brown olive ice dub. So the cool thing about these dubbing brushes is you can customize them to your liking. So I will tie these WMDs in this, and then I don't have any of the dubbing left, and I'm kind of pissed off because I wanted to show you. But the dubbing is called Golden Stone, and it's done by Spirit River. It is deadly, deadly stuff, and it's kind of a golden yellow color, and that color for Scuds crushes. So a lot of people question us on this fly, and 100. Wow, we got a busy night tonight. Right on. Anyhow, a lot of people say, well, you just wrap a dubbing loop around a hook, and I do, but it catches fish like you wouldn't believe. So I don't know if Kyle's still in here. Kyle, are you still here? Last year we went to a lake, and I kind of told him about this fly. We got out to the lake, and I brought him a couple of them. And I think that day he fished his regular Scud against the WMD, and it was like out fishing, just crushing it. It was a huge difference. So if I'm being totally honest, this Scud in two different colors is the only fly that I tie for Scuds. So you don't need a ton. If they don't want this, then they don't want Scuds. So there's Kyle. Kyle can vouch for the WMD. I've made him a believer. And So I wrap it down into the bend and tie this in here. So just grab that wire and secure that with some nice tight wraps. And the hook is going to do all the work, so you don't have to worry about shaping the fly or anything like that. I mean, it's got that Scud shape. You can certainly tie this on a straight shanked hook too. Straight shanked hooks are super underrated for tying Scuds on. Rob has been using those straight shanks and Scuds for years. But when a Scud swims, it is straight, flat. So if you're repping it that way, then it works. So WMD is wire mesh dubbing brush, or weapon of mass destruction, meaning we tie leeches this way and Scuds this way. And not only do they crush, but they last forever. So you're just going to wrap this up the shank. Try to make your wraps somewhat side by side, because there's a method to the madness of this thing. And ta-da, that's it. So we get it rocking, and then the rest is all about the haircut. So clean this little tie-off point up and just cinch that down. Just make sure my bead's sitting right. There we go. And then straight to a whip finish. This color mix is dark olive Arizona semi-seal and brown olive ice dub, and it's an 80-20 mix. So 80% semi-seal, and oh man, I always forget something when I do these damn live streams, you know. Somewhere I've got a dubbing brush. This one kind of sucks, but it'll work. Anyway, 80-20 for those, that color mixture. And then the other one, if you want to try and find it, it's called Golden Stone is the color, and it's done by Spirit River. It's a UV2 dubbing. I don't often change up the bead, no. Just gold, copper. But you can see, once I get this thing brushed out. Oh, there you go. So, watching videos on how to do them. So you can see, I mean, all I did was brush that thing out, and now it's starting to take shape. And obviously the semi-seal fibers are a little bit long, which is fine. We're going to trim everything to our liking here real quick. And if you're curious and you want to go in the feed, there are some pictures of one of these wet, and that's kind of where it shines. So we just kind of haircut that up, and then I come in here this way and just trim random, and that'll just kind of stagger that bottom bit so it doesn't look so blunt. And then just trim up the top. Dubbing brush just makes it last like so much longer. These things are bulletproof, right? So once again, it's efficiency and durability. Those are, if it catches them up and it lasts a while doing it. So what happens is, and the reason you have to do a dubbing brush is because when this thing gets wet, what you're going to find is that wire showing through from the brush. That's why I mentioned when you wrap it, try to wrap it, you know, as even as you can, because you can already see after pulling that out, you're not going to be able to see it, unfortunately, but you can see the segmentation of that wire up top here that gives the fly its segmentation on the back. And then, I mean, just look at it right there. I mean, does that look like a Scud? Yep. Does it have like a whole bunch of UV resin and fancy little whiskers and this and that? And no, but It has movement and it has a profile, and I would put it up against any of the most realistic scud patterns out there. Sometimes I think there's something to, you know, the bugginess effect, but check it out. Who knew scuds could be so easy? Tie that up. I promise you, everybody I have given one of those to or fished one of those ends up loving it. And this color and the other one, that's the only two scuds you'll find in my fly box. So I will spin up another one, and then certainly play with the dubbing brushes too, right? Combine any colors you like. It's endless. And then fish them and see what works. Dubbing brush is certainly the way to go. And you'll figure out your dubbing brushes, you know, how thick or thin they need to be. And the cool part about it is, like, you know, if you feel like it's a little bit thick, you know, now I just take some of that dubbing off of there, and I'm left with about that, and that's pretty much what I need to go. And I'm way behind on comments. The screen was like stuck there, but ice off on Roche. No clue about Roche. No scud back. No, the ribbing is there. It's just you have to brush it out, and then the wire that's underneath becomes your ribbing. So the ribbing is certainly there. Holy, I'm way behind on the comments. Sorry, people. White works. That UV kind of gray can be a really good scud color too, but I've just broke it down to these two colors, and that's it. And I tie them on a size 12 scud hook. I do oversize the bead. That's a 7/64 bead, but there's that's about it. But wrapping them somewhat even makes a big difference to the finished product when you're done. Yeah, short strips, wind drift it, you know, strip, pause. There's a bazillion different ways to fish scuds. I love hanging them right close to the tulies in the shallows. So where you get those thick bulrushes, if you can get a drift to cruise right by those bulrushes, giddy up, it's game on. But they're not super complicated, I promise you. They're really easy. So I'll show you guys what I use. So this is as complicated as it gets. These you can buy from us. I think Rob's probably got some, but there's a little hole and then a slot down here, and then this thing up here. So I just wrap my wire around this thing, and I usually put my wire on a bobbin to do it. Wrap it around there, bring it down, let it hang through here, stack my dubbing on, mixture of what I want, and then put my dubbing loop in the bottom, bring this back up, spin it around so it locks it, grab my dubbing twister, spin it up, and that's it. Like, it's super easy to do, so certainly try it. I think it's easier than you'll think. And go this way and throw a bunch of these in. And if you tie them decent, like this one looks like I got it done right, you can get your thread right in behind the bead. So like that doesn't have any collar at all. And once that thread's tucked in behind that bead, it's pretty safe and protected. It won't be coming apart. But UTC small wire is what I use. Oh yeah, new bobbin holder right there. That says Togan sent us that one, and I am still using it. Seems to be working just well. There's tons of videos on making dubbing brushes. A lot of guys use like electric drills and all kinds of crazy stuff, but I don't make them a ton. So that little board that I have and my regular dubbing twister, which is right here, if you haven't seen that before, that's all it is. So I just use that to spin it up. So again, we'll give it a brush. The scissors are actually underneath the thing holding up my phone right now, so those are a little tough to get to, so I'm using the Old Faithfuls. But I used those scissors on 10 dozen crawnies the other day, and all size 18s and 20s, and they seem to work quite well, so I don't hate them, that is for sure. So we'll just get the haircut going, and that's it. So the brush out is super important, kind of pins everything down, and make sure I'm not missing nothing here. And giddy up, like that's it. But our number one Scud, who knew? Right, so same thing, zoom in. It doesn't get too bulky, right? Up top, you can see that profile is not super bulky, but it gets a little bit of flash, lots of legs in there, and the profile works. So the fish tell us, but try it out. I mean, those are awesome for anybody beginning, but I mean, I can definitely have tied many of the resin scuds and all that different stuff, and it's fun to tie sometimes, but again, it's just sometimes that buggy factor. The resin tends to make things a little bit stiff, and so there it is. That's the WMD for anybody that wants to know. A mini Squamish poacher. Okay, I don't know what that is, but I'll take your word for it. Okay, so that's that. So those two must-haves at Ice Off. I promise you, if you have those at Ice Off, either of them, you will catch a fish. That is a promise. Put that on a shoal in 5 feet or less, and you're going to get your fish. Okay, now it wouldn't be Ice Off without a leech. So leeches are staple, and the one fly that isn't in here would be, and I think I just tied it on a live not long ago, would be that jiggy damsel. So the take on that Brian's Marabou damsel with the straggle. But aside from that, these three get fished a ton. So hold me to it. Please do, because yeah, that's just confidence. I might have to look that up. All right, just swapping out some thread here. And now, so same thing, either tungsten bead, or if you're just rocking brass, that's cool too. Throw some lead wraps around the shank, and then shove it up into the bead there. So, I don't add any flash to these. I tend to fish flashier flies in the fall. I don't know why, but flash in the fall has always, for the last few years, has kind of been the thing. It's a little bit more subtle in the springtime. Simple little ice dub leech. And I've said it 100 times, ice dub is a fish catcher. And when you mix marabou and ice dub together, you're probably going to catch them up. So I'll grab this marabou, and I just peel it off the stem. So there's my feather. You can see the chunk that I've just peeled away. And you want that super light, fluffy, flowy stuff. Hey, go easy now there, fella. I meant subtle with my leeches, not with all the flies. So you can do one or two things on these. You can kind of measure it this way so that you don't have to trim it, and you get a little bit more of a natural thing, or you can just grab it up top and you can tie it in and pinch it. But this looks good to me, so I'm just gonna grab a hold of that and then just keep it pinched and come back and just throw one for a prop up there. And then you can grab all this excess, nip that out of there. Moose is good with being on the boat, yeah. So, got a flowy little tail there, a little bit longer than the body, or body length is kind of what you're shooting for. And then I'm just doing a dubbing loop and making it some ice dub. So this is black UV ice dub. Nothing mixed in it, just straight up. So the reason I don't add flash to the tail is because we have a ton of flash in the body. And actually, when we brush this out, it's going to make its way into the tail anyways. So, this one here, black with the orange bead. Super classic, I know. Way outside the box, not at all. But my second would be the vampire style, but with the smaller straggle, with the 5mm straggle. But tied the same way, you know, the black wire, or the black marabou, black straggle, and then chartreuse bead. And then either the marabou damsel or the jiggy marabou style is between those. That's about the only leeches that I will fish. So the super small ones are usually done in all marabou. The medium-ish size ones with the dubbing. Just trying to get that to sit right. There we go. And then same thing, I just kind of pull that material back as I go. You don't really have to do that, but just saves trapping stuff. There are certainly days where red, so I'll tie a semi-seal leech in just red semi-seal, and there's been days where that's been the ticket. But since fishing the attractor stuff, it's just the need for, you know, odd color leeches or anything like that I don't really go to anymore, simply because, you know, the purples and that kind of thing I don't fish a ton of. This has got a little bit of a purple look with the UV, but like you can, I mean, bada bing, right? So we brush this all out. And that'll usually thin out your loop a little bit. And that's it. So I hope nobody's disappointed coming looking for some crazy, complicated, super secret ties. But it's, yeah, it's just a what works. You guys will be able to obviously take them and find out now. But Disco, giddy up. Yeah, so no need to put pearl or tinsel or anything in the tail. You've got plenty enough just the way it is. And that's it. Probably, yeah, that's probably number one on the Leech scale. And that's a size 12 curved nymph hook. So I should probably tie more varied sizes of leeches, but I tie them like a size 12 curved nymph or a 14 or 16 scud hook. So tiny little micros or micro-ish. Simple and effective, yes. That is kind of the name of the game. Everyone can tie these. Like if you're new to fly tying, these are awesome little ties for you because A, they're not super difficult, and B, you can fill your box with stuff that's going to catch fish, right? I mean, after all, that's kind of why we do it. I mean, sure, there's days where I tie flies to clear my head or forget about shit, but for the most part, I'm tying them to catch fish. So make them as complicated or as simple as you like, but I do not fish balanced leeches. Get asked that quite often. I have nothing against them. If you want to tie them and fish them, then for sure, all the power to you. But I just haven't had a day where I've been outfished by one. So I tie my flies based on the catch rate, and until I get a ass kicking from a balanced leech, it may happen one day. I won't bother going through the trouble of tying them. Now, if you're not comfortable doing a dubbing loop, then you can certainly just twist the dubbing on here. If you do that, though, I would tie in a wire rib just to counter rib up, and that'll protect it. But the dubbing loops are super simple, so if you just start kind of a little ways up from the back, and then I just catch my thread, and then I wrap back on both pieces about halfway back, and then I'll kick my bobbin around, and that just locks it in, the loop, and then that's not coming undone. I don't use the hot bath. On semi-seal leeches, like straight up semi, I often will. But with these ones, nah. As soon as this thing gets in the water and you pull it in and out a couple times, it kind of takes its shape and does its thing. And yeah, you can do a dubbing brush for these too. That would be a WMD Leech. But I've seen a few people not super comfortable with building brushes, so we'll just do the loops and everybody can take baby steps. I cast like a love of plywood. I do not compute. All right. And then you can also, if you want them, ice dub's pretty easy. It comes out really easy. You don't really have to pre-brush it. But if you want to, you can come in here and just brush out these fibers. That's a good way to even out your loop too, so it doesn't get bulky in certain spots. But from there, it's just giddy up and wrap it. But same thing, just sweeping the fibers back like a hackle. Yes, we certainly will. We've been getting asked that a ton, and COVID is really the only reason that we're not doing them. So we love to do them. I mean, this is kind of taking place of them right now. That's kind of why I've been trying to do the live stream stuff, is just because we get a ton of questions, and there's so many wicked awesome people starting to get into this, into not only fly fishing but fly tying, and it's one of those things where, you know, it can be a super steep learning curve, and that can put a lot of people off. So you know, it's nice to not always have to pay for information. So, you know, this helps people get started, and lets them know that when we do run classes, obviously it'll be worth it to join in. But these kind of go out to everybody, but more so those folks starting out and learning, but cheers, Kyle. Can't wait, buddy. So there it is. Brush it out. Right on. Yeah, Jason's been to our classes, so they are fun. It's good to get together and obviously be social and learn something. Sometimes we end up learning stuff. I mean, the students come in with cool ideas, and that's one thing if you're just starting out in fly tying. There's no right or wrong to anything. If it catches fish and it looks stupid, well, guess what? It works, so keep doing it. They don't have to all be, you know, the perfect segmented chronomid and the perfectly tapered mayfly and that kind of thing. It's what gets you going and what catches fish. Right on, Timmy. Thanks, bud. Well, we got a ton of people in here still, and why don't we do one more? We got like 10 minutes or so left. I think this only lets me go for an hour, but I'm not positive. So if this craps out on us, then I apologize. But I had a lot of questions about the stretch floss Scud that I posted. Or not Scud, sorry, Cronny. So I'm going to go ahead, and this is a new hook for me. This is a Kona pupa hook. And so I'm just going to try tying on one just for shits and gigs. But I don't have the orange floss. I could not find what the hell I did with it. So we're going to do this one with green stretch floss and then rusty brown thread. Hit that save button. Yeah, I believe there's no more time limit. All right, well, this one takes a little bit to do, so we'll just see if we can bang one of these out. This is the first fly I've tied on a hook like this. But we just kind of, so with these buzzer style bugs, I try to tie my thread in and leave myself enough room to build my thorax. And hitting the save button I suck at, because I just close the thing and then hit the first button I see, and sometimes it's right and sometimes it's wrong. I'll try my best. Cool. Most of this stuff you can find on the YouTube channel too, guys, and the camera angle is a lot better on that than it is on this. This one works good for the interaction and the questions, but YouTube's way better for the close-ups. So anyhow, so rusty brown thread. This is an olive stretch floss. And I just capture that and really stretch it out as I wrap it down. And then I'll just get a little bit of taper going to my body. I don't do a ton of taper with the buzzer styles. It's mostly the profile is going to be skinny body and then bulbous head. And that's kind of takes on that crawny profile. I don't tie a lot of these in smaller sizes. Typically just the bigger ones. Starts getting a lot of shit on a hook in bigger sizes. And then all I did on the other one is bring out my favorite little tools, and it's a Sharpie, and then come in here and just dab the bottom little bit of that, and you can even splash some on the thread. So that's going to give you that kind of red butt and rib. Now you don't have to do that, but certainly takes on a pretty cool look. I live in Kamloops, so I don't fish the lower mainland very often. I don't even like to drive there, so I try to stay away. Yeah, right on. It's just information. If people want to join and see, then they are obviously welcome to it. So now you just leave a little bit of that brown in between your wraps and come up the body, a little bit of tension, and then tie it off, and that gives you a pretty slick body for a bug. Now this is being tied exactly the way you're not even going to be able to see that. Oh, kind of. This takes on that dirty olive look, right? But I don't know about Sharpie, but this tulip marker right here, that is as rusty brown gets. So you can see it there. So you gotta hike up your big man pants and just head into that craft store, and they have cool shit. Don't be ashamed to be at a craft store if you're a fly tire. I go all the time. Okay, so now I haven't tied one of these in forever, so just building the thorax a little bit. And then I'm going to go back to that same piece of stretch floss. Love still water, but nothing will ever beat steelhead. Just come catch some penasks that are the same size as steelhead, and you'll understand where my obsession lies. Yeah, UTC is terrible that way. When you find a color you like, just do like I do and buy like 4 of them, and then you'll be good to go for a little while. So what I've done here is just grabbed the thread with that stretch floss and then pull it up underneath right close to the eye and just start wrapping backwards, and then I let it go. And what'll happen is they'll naturally want to splay out. So you can see I've got one on each side of the hook. So then I can grab them and just kind of pull them back to either side and make sure they're somewhat even. That looks pretty good there. And then really just cinch down those wraps. And building this thorax up just a little bit. Now, some medium size opal tinsel will be our flashback. Feisty penasks are tough to beat. They don't have a current behind them, but they got serious power, so to each their own, I suppose. Going to Michael's for the first time to look a lot, but I'm good with it now. Hey, look, I just pack them up and walk in like a boss. Who cares, you know? Like, yeah, I go to craft stores. and I'm okay with it. So I just tied that Mirage in right up top, like so. And I could probably go back another wrap or two, like that. All right. Hopefully I have some gill material here somewhere. Yep. The beginning was a blob, and then we tied a scud, and then we tied a leech, all ice off patterns, and yeah, that's where I found it. That's a freshie right there, a freshie bottle. And the old containers make wicked little cranny holders because they got lids on them, and theirs aren't going nowhere. So I can't say I've taken on scrapbooking, bud. I'll leave that to you. If I ever need a hand with it, I'll ask, though. Thanks, appreciate it. Okay, so where am I? I got my flashback, my wing pads. Now we need some hurl. Now, a lot of the UK style buzzers that you see will literally just build up a thread thorax and then pull stuff up. And you can certainly do things that way. Like I say, there's no wrong reason or right or wrong way to do any of this shit. So totally up to you guys how you do it. But I'm going to throw in the hurl because peacock hurl catches fish. Now, if I'm tying these for my box, I'm coating that thread in crazy glue prior to wrapping my hurl. I'll do that just about 90% of the time. Right on, bud. Thank you very much. Enjoy your evening. Okay. Now, this is where it can get a little bit tricky. So you can choose whatever way you want or whatever order you want to do this next step. I typically do the wing buds first. So I don't want to pull them tight. So what I like to do is kind of pull them up. And then I'll show you, you could probably tell in that other picture in the post that they stick out just a wee bit. So tie them in like so, and then just come in and give a little tug with your scissors. Come in here. Come on. A little tug with my scissor, like that. This one came just a wee bit too much. Son of a. There we go, those are perfect. And then cinch them down, put a couple wraps in behind, a couple more on top. And then with this material, stretch the living crap out of it and then trim. And you won't be left with any tag out over the hook eye. They suck right up into your thread wraps. So now we're going to pull this flash over, and then just a couple wraps there, and then a couple in behind. Trim that off. And then you could whip finish it right here and just be done. Plenty of them are fished that way. I'm just going to throw in a quick whip finish to save my work. And then if you want, all I did with the wing pet buds is just come in and touch them with a little bit of red on the back half. There are certainly days where, so if I zoom in on this thing, there's my flashback. If I flip it over, you can kind of see those wing buds there, right? And so it takes on a pretty realistic look. Sorry, what was I saying? Sometimes on the clear water lakes, you know, fish can be shown a lot of bead-headed patterns, and sometimes the more natural-looking stuff will have its place. And then use whatever you want for the gills, but I'm just going to use the usual uni stretch. So this is, again, will test your patience a little bit, a fly like this, because you have so much stuff to tie off up at the head of the fly. And all I want to do is get a couple figure 8 wraps in there, so those are chilling, and then I'll push them back, a couple wraps in front, and then a quick whip finish. Same thing, pull those out of the way. I'm going to glue the hell out of this thing, so a couple whips is all you need. Trim that, pull these both straight up, trim those out. They'll split apart, do their thing, and giddy up. So there you have it. Oh, past 1 hour. All right. Well, that's a good thing. So, but you can see even that doesn't take too long. It's all about proportions. But you know, if you look closer, I don't think I can get any closer. So, oh yeah, a little bit there. So there's your wing buds with the little red. But that is that one. There it is. So that's your bonus bug for the night. I have a moose on my feet. I have some flies to put in my box. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. That was a killer one, that one, guys. Thanks for stopping by. Any questions before we call her a night? I think it suits this style fly very well. I'm used to fairly strong hooks, so it's a little bit of a thin wire, so we'll kind of see how that goes. But yeah, quite nice to tie on. But if it don't hold the fish, then it don't matter how nice it is to tie on. But yeah, try some of these, especially any of you crawny guys that are, you know, if you get sick of tying the beaded ones. These are a little old school. If you look at guys like Davey McPhail and stuff like that, the UK guys have a ton of these patterns on YouTube. So try it out and see what you think. But they are a fun tie. That's all we got. We're getting close. We're getting so close. I cannot wait. Right on. Right around the corner, Bob. Oh, I'm just getting stoked. I hope you guys are getting stoked. We'll probably have 1 or 2 more of these before ice off happens. But seriously, any questions on how to fish it or what you should be doing or whatever, reach out. We're happy to help if we can. And you guys all rock. So that's all I got. I don't know of any lake that's within 2 weeks of being ice off yet. That's all I know. We're not quite there. So anyhow, that's all I got. Thank you very much. Have a great night. You guys rock. We'll see you on the next one.